What's going on, YouTube? JT's Reborn here, and welcome back to another edition of my DC comic book reviews. And in today's video, we're going to be talking about Batman Secret Files, The Gardener, issue number 1. That's right, The Gardener, a character who I have next to no feelings about because I know pretty much next to nothing about, is finally getting a Secret Files issue, which I feel like this issue should have came out like way earlier. Like, I already read Batman, I already read Nightwing and all that stuff. Like, this just, the Fear State event's pretty much over. So now we're getting the backstory for this Gardener character. And in fact, this title is so misleading because this issue shouldn't be titled Batman Secret Files, The Gardener. It should be titled Batman Secret Files, Poison Ivy, because it's more about Poison Ivy than it is about the Gardener. Why? Like, this should be your issue to flesh out this character, make him interesting. But the Gardener just isn't an interesting character. It just feels like Poison Ivy if you took away all the years of storytelling and just like, okay, here's a character just like Poison Ivy, but a little bit more mean. But they just feel the same thing. They didn't do much in the Fear State event. I guess they kind of helped out a little bit, but they weren't that engaging of a character. They're just a former love interest of Poison Ivy, and that's pretty much it. I don't know why we needed this character. I don't know why Tynion decided to create so many other characters when you could have just kind of cut back on that and had a more focused story. But I guess money is why, because you get money when you utilize these characters and other things. And also, I don't know why Batman doesn't just arrest her. Like, I don't understand that at all. Like, you have an eco-terrorist right here, and you just kind of let her walk. I mean, what the hell, Bruce? It's not like you have much of a connection to her, like, say, if you let, like, Catwoman go, or, like, Talia in the past, because he had feelings for her. This is just a character you don't really know. Known eco-terrorist amongst the world, killed several people, and you do next to nothing about it. So, yeah, so we learn a little bit about her story, and it's not all that interesting. We also see how it ties into Poison Ivy, Jason Woodrue. They even mentioned, like, Swamp Thing, or Alec Holland, and that, like, basically all these plant-related characters are all just conveniently connected in some fashion. So if you want Poison Ivy, like, making out with her, and it looks like I guess them making out and stuff, shower shagging, I don't know. That's that. We find out she has, like, man-eating plants and that. Poison Ivy got around a bit, is what this issue's telling me. She also slept with Jason Woodrue and all that, and then obviously he changed her. So this is just kind of reiterating the backstory of Poison Ivy, a little bit of the Gardener, but it's more about, like, just kind of recapping things. So if you're kind of lost in a lot of the stuff, I guess it's a good issue for a recap, but all things considered, it just doesn't really feel necessary to read this thing, much like all the Secret Files issues. So yeah, we get a little bit of that there. We find out about how Harley Quinn has a close connection to Poison Ivy. We learn basically that Poison Ivy is just extremely powerful, which we already knew, and how she just continued to get more and more powerful, and how she just can be potentially really dangerous. But the Gardener also says that you got to be on the lookout. You got to help her. You can't just bring her in, or otherwise bad things will happen, or something along the lines of that. She basically tells Batman this, and then she just kind of up and leaves. And then it also says that, hey, we're going to be setting up some events that are going to take place in Batman Fear State Omega. Nothing about this issue was all that interesting or engaging. I don't feel like I learned so much about the Gardener. I don't really find them that compelling of a character, all things considered. So this issue, in my eyes, is pretty much just a waste of time. Yes, it ties into Fear State, but it really shouldn't be titled The Gardener. Like, this should have been a more Gardener-focused issue. It's more about Poison Ivy, telling the story about Poison Ivy, rather than, it just feels like an issue to prop up Poison Ivy, like sacrificing, like, this Gardener character as a character. Like, I don't feel like I learned much about them. I get a little bit of their backstory, but nothing that really makes them all that exciting or interesting. Like, once this Fear State event's over with, if I never see the Gardener again, that's fine with me. I don't really care. That's been the issue with a lot of these Tynion characters. The most interesting one was the whole Miracle Molly one. That was a much more interesting Secret Files issue than this. Out of all the ones that Tynion's characters have come up with, not the Ghostmaker one, not the Clown Hunter one, the Miracle Molly one definitely had the most interesting storyline setup. Like, that's the one. I mean, I didn't really care too much for the art style in that, but they had a much more interesting storyline than this one or just the other characters that he's created for this book and then didn't utilize most of them, except for Miracle Molly. Felt like she had the most important plot point in it. Ghostmaker just gets kind of forgotten about. The gardener just stands around for the most part, and Clown Hunter gets kind of forgotten about too. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Artwork is fine, like it's okay, like it's definitely more of like a looking at the colors more than the line work necessarily, but yeah, like you could skip this issue. Like it just really offered me nothing to make me fully care about this gardener character, and really should just be titled Poison Ivy, because that's what it kind of does. I also kind of have issues with kind of incorporating literally every single plant-based character at the same time. Like I don't think it was necessary to incorporate Swamp Thing and all that, like Alec Holland, and say, oh, they all went to like the same place or whatever at the same time. Like I feel like that makes them have less unique identities. Yes, they are plant-based villains and heroes and stuff like that, but you don't need every single one to have this be like right next all at the same time. Kind of, you could have just kind of let them do their own unique stories and such. That was a little gripe with me, but other than that, I don't see what the point of this whole issue was, and kind of a lot of these Fear State tie-ins. Like I said, the only one that I felt like the one that was the most interesting was the Miracle Molly one. So like now I'm thinking back to it, I can't remember what I said about that issue, but it's certainly more interesting than the stuff with the gardener. So yeah, those are my quick thoughts on it. I don't recommend this thing. All things considered, all 3 Fear State books this week, I don't particularly care. Didn't really despise them, like think they're the worst things of all time, but I just didn't care. That's just Fear State in a nutshell. Like it just felt like it just kind of ended on a bit of a whimper. Yes, there's a few more things on that checklist for next week, and then we have the Omega thing, then it's done. No more Fear State. No more big events like this for a while. Let's take a little breather. Let's get a more character-focused Batman storyline that's just on a smaller scale. Doesn't need to be 100 tie-ins or anything like that to exhaust the readers. Just something more smaller and character-focused that moves at a better pace. And that's what I'm hoping Josh Ho Williamson does. So, yep, that's all I have to say about this. Tell me your thoughts on this issue if you just happen to read it in the comment section down below. And, yeah, subscribe for more content. I'm all caught up with the Fear State issues this week, and then I'll be ready to go for whatever happens next week. All right, that's all I got to say. As always, take care now. Bye-bye then, and I will see you all in the next video. Peace.